I really loved the opening sequence of this film and seeing Bert the Turtle and all these old 50s footage. It really helped to set the scene of this film and where and when it's taking place. I loved the relationship between the father and the son that's portrayed in this film. I thought it was really cool seeing all the similarities between father and son and how desperately the son wants his father's approval and wants his father to just care and to discipline him and be a father to him in this situation, because having that parental figure in these trying times is so important for these kids. I thought that the acting in this was really great. I loved seeing the chemistry and relationship between the father and son, and the son and sister. And the music was also great. Um, I thought that the set design was one of the standouts of this film as well. It felt very realistic, and seeing like the old 50s and you know, TV and the old footage and the pictures was really cool to see, and I thought it did a great job of setting this tone as well.
This propaganda, this PSA, this moment in time, it's nostalgic and it kind of warps you back in time, right? Through the way that the sound is swooshed around and the way that the editing is paired with that, it really kind of spirals you down this rabbit hole, and then we're kind of brought to this different point in time, and it really felt nostalgic and old and period, very very period. And then you go into the house and see the production design. It's a mess. You see that there's trouble afoot in this home, and then we go outside and find this moment of hysteria and paranoia, which was something that was very real during this time of having this fear of a nuclear explosion happening and having people prep for this and this doomsday, so to speak. And it was so interesting to kind of see a moment. I remember having this moment where I noticed the box of toilet paper in the background, and it made me think of the pandemic that we had, we're still undergoing through, so to speak. And so it was interesting to see how the mass hysteria had also like affected people back then.
Familial reconciliation under the backdrop of the fear and paranoia towards nuclear war in the 1950s. It's an interesting juxtaposition for sure, but it's one that suits the story quite beautifully. Um, I think that not only is the aesthetic done on point here in Nuclear, but the overall tone is perfect because it's not overly dour. It has that kind of upbeat lightness to it that I think so many were trying to convey in their serious messages about the nuclear war threat in the 1950s. We saw it in a lot of the propaganda, etc., etc. But at its core, this piece explores a fractured relationship between father and son. And unlike the threat of nuclear war, that one shows much brighter hopes of uh, being fixed and being improved.
Great casting choices, and I really like the choice of this being set in a different time period because it's still relevant today, unfortunately. So, but I really liked the casting choices of the people, and I liked the costumes. The wardrobe to me was really well done, and the set design, given that this is a period piece. Really interesting, and just really good acting and writing and editing and everything. Great music. I really like the close up on the firework. And I really like the home movie footage.
A very unique and interesting way to show trauma, what the death of an individual can do, especially a loved one like the kid's mother, his dad's wife, can do to a family, especially when the news media is putting fear into them. Where dad's building a hole in the backyard and kids getting suspended for mouthing off to a teacher. This film was not what I expected it to be. This was a very interesting film because it started with something that seems upbeat, a turtle talking about nuclear war, stuff like that. So you don't really expect it to turn into such a hardcore drama like it did. the story was very beautifully executed. The set design was amazing. I don't know where they found the cars from the 1950s, but it was really well executed to put it the way it is, where really you can see that these people are all still grieving the loss of their loved one.
This main character, the teenager Randy, who's coming home to tell his father that he's been suspended from school for speaking up about the videos and the movies they were watching, and the teacher telling them to duck and cover and train as if there's a missile attack. Something that I think a lot of young people were going through at the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 under Kennedy's rule. So I can totally relate. I could see a lot of people relating with this because the father is building a shelter. The mother's deceased and they all miss her. There was some nice exposition with a pack of cards that Randy held with her photo. I thought that was so smart. And I think this father had the same fears a lot of fathers. They just want to protect their families because of the unknown. Good footage of the family together in the years when the mother was alive. And I thought Mr. Lin brought a nice little bit of humor and relief.
It also was interesting to see their bright sunny day and the sort of idyllic world in contrast with what was going on during the time period and what the family of the characters was experiencing. I think it created a really interesting contrast, and it definitely had a great story arc that stood well on its own. I could definitely see this as a short story on screen, and it was really nicely completed within the frame.